After 2 weeks of sun, sand, and total disconnect, driving home was never something I looked forward to, especially after a vacation with the family. I live for those rare moments where my wife, my 2 kids, and I can just unplug from the busy city and the weight of my job. As chief of police for our town, my days are often a blur of meetings, emergencies, and paperwork. But those past 14 days had felt like a reset. The kids were happy. My wife had laughed more than I'd seen in months. And for once, I'd barely glanced at my phone. Pulling into the driveway, I already noticed something was off. The neighborhood was quiet, not unusual. But there was a faint, almost penetrating funk drifting from my front door. An odor vaguely like spoiled food mixed with something stale and chemical, the kind of smell you'd notice immediately if you'd been away, and certainly not something homemade like my wife would cook. I dropped the bags from our trip in the back of the car, took a deep breath, and tried to shake the unease. The kids were buzzing inside the car, oblivious. My plan was to get inside, throw a load in the washer, take a shower, and get back on track. Vacation done. Life's rhythm restored. Walking up the porch, the front door was slightly ajar. Not wide open, just cracked in a way that immediately set off my alarm bells. Nothing about this felt right. I tried the door handle. It was unlocked. Hello? I called inside, voice neutral but firm. A pause, and then I heard the muffled sound of a robe rustling. Slowly pushing the door further open, I squinted down the dim hallway, and then I saw it. A familiar face poked out from behind the wall. It was Karen, our neighbor. But something about her shocked me to my core. She was wearing a bathrobe, hair disheveled, and her eyes darted as if caught trespassing in my own home. Karen? My voice softened but was laced with confusion. She blinked rapidly, then stammered, "Jonah? What are you doing here?" I stepped inside, the house behind her a chaotic sight. Trash littered the floor. Furniture had been moved or overturned, and everywhere I looked things were out of place. Dishes broken in the kitchen sink, mail scattered across tables. "Karen, what's going on?" "Why are you in my house?" I asked, terror mixing with anger. She hesitated, then shrugged as if it was no big deal. I've been staying here." "Staying here?" "Karen, this is my home. You've been here 2 weeks. My family and I were on vacation." Her eyes narrowed, and suddenly fear morphed into defiance. "This is my home now, too. At least, as much as yours. You can't just kick me out." The words hung heavy in the air. I stood there, stunned. What was going on with her? And why wasn't she calling me or at least letting our landlord know? This was a serious breach, not just of my privacy or property, but something far deeper. Karen's defiant tone sent a chill through me. I'd known her for years, a somewhat demanding, difficult neighbor, sometimes borderline confrontational, but never this unpredictable. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "Karen, listen to me. You don't have a right to be here. This is my home. We're the owners. My family was out of town, on vacation. You don't just move in and trash someone's property." Her eyes narrowed further, her nostrils flaring. She straightened her shoulders and took a step toward me with what I can only describe as wild determination. "You have no proof. No one will believe you," she spat. "I have rights here too, and if you try to remove me, I'm calling the police." That threat hit me like a blast of cold water. It was surreal. Me, chief of police, threatened with a 911 call from my own neighbor who was clearly trespassing inside my personal residence. She stalked to the phone on the hallway table. Without hesitation, she grabbed it and began dialing. "No, Karen, don't do that," I said quietly but firmly, stepping toward her. "It's my right," she said, voice trembling with anger and desperation. "I'm living here now. You can't kick me out." Her hands shook as she pulled the phone closer. Suddenly, the line connected. 911, what's your emergency?" Karen turned toward me, phone pressed to her ear as if daring me. "Hello, yes. I'm trapped in a house I belong in, but the owner just came home and is threatening to kick me out. I need immediate help." The lie sounded ridiculous even to me, But I knew the situation had already escalated. I took a measured step forward. "Karen, hang up the phone. Let me explain." She pulled back, almost fearful now, her fingers trembling. The whole situation spiraled quickly, and a part of me wished my family was here to protect me and our home. Before I could say anything else, a neighbor who'd noticed the commotion had already called the real police. That's when I realized I couldn't handle this alone. This was no longer a private matter. It was a police matter. And as much as I was their chief, I had to let the system take its course. Within minutes, several squad cars rolled up the block. I recognized the officers immediately. Some had worked under me for years. They were professional, cautious, but also curious, having heard the call that a woman had been found inside a private residence without permission. The lead sergeant approached the door and nodded at me, recognizing me instantly. "Chief Hart," he said respectfully. "We're here to secure the scene and figure this out." I nodded, keeping Karen under my gaze. She was pacing inside my living room now, pulling at the edges of the furniture, eyes darting wildly. "Karen," I called, calmly, "you need to cooperate. This isn't going to get better if you keep resisting." The officers moved in slowly, trying to diffuse the tension. One of them spoke gently to Karen, asking for her identification and verifying her story. Unsurprisingly, nothing she said matched reality. "This is Mr. Hart's home," the officer confirmed quietly into his radio. "He owns the property." Another officer started assessing the damage inside. The trashed cushions, the broken glass, the trash piled in corners. It was clear this woman had been living here for a while at least, but the mental state she was in suggested more. As the officers prepared to escort Karen out of the house, she suddenly exploded into a frenzy. She started pulling cushions off the couches, throwing items to the floor, smashing a vase on the hardwood as if trying to erase everything. "Get her!" I ordered without hesitation, my voice booming through the entryway. Two officers responded instantly, rushing forward to restrain her. She fought, screaming, but was subdued and handcuffed. Walking past the debris and mess she'd created felt like walking through the ruins of a nightmare. I looked at her as she sat on the curb in handcuffs, breathing heavily, eyes wild, but now, with a flicker of resignation. The officers ran her through their protocols: registration, background checks, and a full evaluation. As the interrogation unfolded, it became clearer that this wasn't just a case of trespassing or mental illness. Karen had been under the influence of substances, her behavior erratic and unpredictable over the last few weeks. While I won't speculate on specifics, her condition explained a lot. The hallucinations, the delusions, the breakdown of social norms. She had convinced herself she had the right to live in my home, that no one could force her out. Her perception of reality was fractured. She was not the neighbor I had once known. As chief, I've dealt with many challenging individuals: homelessness, addiction, mental health crises. But this was personal. It hit home in a way other cases didn't. I watched Karen being led to a patrol car, handcuffed, her robe torn and stained. "You're going to have a chance to get help," I called after them. Whether or not she took that chance, I didn't know. But what was certain was that the sanctity of my home had been violated in ways I couldn't just ignore or forget. I felt a strange mixture of anger, sadness, and empathy. Once Karen was gone, I surveyed the wreckage. My home was a mess. Trash. Everywhere. Furniture displaced or broken, important documents scattered. It was going to take days, maybe weeks, to put it all back together. Beyond the physical damage, though, the wound felt deeper. I called my wife on the way home and explained what happened. Her voice was tight and concerned. "We'll get through this, babe. We always do," she assured me. "But you have to take care of yourself first." I nodded silently, but the weight of the incident pressed on me. This wasn't about just a messy house. It was about trust, boundaries, safety. Things I fought for every day in my job and now in my personal life. Police department rallied behind me. They respected the professionalism I showed during the incident, despite the personal stakes. It reminded me of why I got into this field, to protect the community and the people within it. But now I also had to protect my family's peace too. In the days following, I reached out to local social services, making sure Karen received the help she clearly needed. I wouldn't wish what I went through on anyone. It's one thing to be chief of police commanding order. It's another to have chaos invade your own sacred space. The experience reminded me that behind every badge is a human being, with vulnerabilities, family, and a home to defend. I changed. Some security measures at the house, of course. Cameras, better locks. But more than that, I took the time to reflect on community, compassion, and boundaries. Karen was a reminder that sometimes those closest to us carry battles we never see. And while justice must be done, helping someone get back on their feet is just as vital. Now, as I sit in my living room, cleaned and restored, the funky smell is gone. The house feels whole again. But the story, that strange vacation home invasion, will stick with me for a long time. Not just as a chief of police, but as the protector of my family and my peace.